Hello and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Virendra Daphne from Standard Chartered, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. This is I'm doing in my personal capacity. Today, I have a pleasure talking with Rohit Dhawan, the person who is a regional lead for the APAC region from the Amazon AWS side. He also has a rich academic credentials, having a PhD in machine learning against his name. Welcome, Rohit.
Thanks, Virendra, and pleasure to be talking to you and the CEO magazine.
What are your thoughts on the digital transformation on finance, telecom, or healthcare? Do you see different patterns? Do you see some different way people think about it?
Yes, I do actually. I think the fundamental difference between these industries specifically is the maturity and the adoption. Financial services and banking are big adopters of technology, and they're also early adopters because of the competitive landscape they're in. So, pick any geography or country. Let's say, Singapore, right? Singapore is a financial hub anyway, right? But there's such a major competition, right, in every sphere of financial services. Be it retail banking, business banking, investment banking, capital markets, so on and so forth. And because of the amount of money that flows and is being generated, there's a lot at stake for these financial institutions, and most financial institutions are very data rich, right? They thrive on data. Either on customer data or on financial investment data, right? So data becomes a differentiator, and how you use data to differentiate yourself, create new value propositions for the customer, and also think about creating new products, right, in the market that are all driven by data-driven insights. I think that becomes a key differentiator. So the adoption of digital transformation, especially when it comes to data, is probably the highest in financial services. And in terms of telco versus healthcare, I would say, followed by telcos, which are also in a very competitive landscape, and they have, very small margins now. Telcos are also increasingly becoming, very much data-driven. And they are driven by, metrics such as ARPU, which is average revenue per unit or average revenue per customer. So they are focused a lot on customer personalization or building customer data platforms in the recent past. So telcos are also data rich. They're also very competitive. They're also embarking on digital transformation journeys, probably almost as much as financial services. But I think financial services have a bit more leeway, right, because of the scale they operate in. And healthcare, which is a bit of a regulated industry, right, I think has traditionally struggled from a digital transformation angle, given that one, it's a regulated industry, and sometimes, there is less incentive to be aggressive or competitive when it comes to transformation, because the focus is really on, for example, patient outcomes or improving public health, versus, hey, we want to be more competitive, or, we want to beat another healthcare system, right? And healthcare, if you look at healthcare in Singapore or even Australia, which is sort of, the country where I lived for a number of years before I moved to Singapore, healthcare is primarily in the public sector domain, right? It's owned by government, and hence, there's less of a priority, when it comes to adoption of technology. The higher priority is essentially making sure that people are treated equitably, and there's innovation from a scientific perspective. But it's catching up, and there's so many applications or learnings and transfer of knowledge that we can use from other industries into healthcare.
Yeah, okay. I think this is quite insightful. You said finance is the leader. Then you have touched upon telecom, which is picking up. And then you said healthcare and even limitations of healthcare being a regulated industry. I remember, if I had to add 2 lines on healthcare, 10 years back, Google and Microsoft both launched a product about healthcare platform. both miserably felt because life insurance providers refused to give the data, complete health data of the customers. Customer doesn't want to expose their illness data to the employer or even generic platforms. So hopefully after in 2022, after 10 years down the line, people are emerging with new healthcare solutions. And this AI/ML will probably solve that. Having a personal health data on the social platform, it can be master or all 1,000 business. But anyway, I'll go to the another question of this. See, when we talk about digital transformation, we always talk about people are using this tool, that tool. Somebody's using AWS, somebody's using Microsoft, right? So can you please throw some light on the tools that one can think for digital transformation?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, most, clients that I work with, and not just in AWS, right? Even in my previous consulting jobs or assignments, typically tend to choose the tool set, which is fit for purpose. I mean, that should be the intention, right? You define your purpose and you pick a tool set that's fit for your needs, and at the same time has a reputation to evolve over a period of time, right? If you can afford, you go with the market leaders, right? Now, the choice of tool really depends on, the broader architecture, or how the different tools integrate, within the technology landscape. So I think it's important to keep that into account, right? Because unless you have a very specialized need or a very specialized requirement, and you need a very specific tool which can solve your problem and other tools can't, then it's a different story. But if you have requirements that can be solved by multiple tools, I think it's important to keep in mind how the different tools will integrate with each other, because you might want to avoid a situation where you have a multitude of tools in your stack, and to bring them all together into a common solution becomes problematic.
I think that's very useful. So you're talking about the tool for need. Tool can solve the solution. Even having the tool, multi-tools, it's like an architecture's dilemma kind of a thing, that they tend to love everything, and making decision becomes tough. But that's really useful. If I take this even further and say we have started with strategy, we went on to strategy factors, we went on to trends, then we went into these three sectors. We even spoke about tools. And if I go to the next, which I say big enterprise and less small enterprise, if we say something which is lesser than 5 million, something which is bigger than 5 billion. So if you want to comment on the digital transformation for a very small company, like a startup or maybe a 5 million less, and the elephant-like companies, IBM, Google, or the Facebooks of the world, how do you see the digital transformation going on of the very big size and very less size? Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point, because generally speaking, larger organizations are harder to transform because of legacy processes more than anything else. Larger organizations have existed for a significant number of years, right? And over the years, companies acquire new IT systems, they create new processes, they acquire companies, they merge with companies, and over a period of time, you essentially, create a very complex ecosystem of people, processes, and technology systems, and that makes transformation hard because of those legacy systems and processes. Versus, if you are a smaller sized organization, especially if you're a digital native business, right? So you don't have that legacy of people or process, and you are nimble, right? And you are already an early adopter of technology, because you don't necessarily rely on systems that are antiquated or cannot integrate with the modern tech stack. And transformation can be much easier from that perspective. But I guess that's kind of the technology and process angle, right? The other angle of transformation is people and skills, right? Because to transform, right, someone needs to do something, right? And it all comes down to people, right? How people operate in an organization. so if, on the most fundamental level, right, people in any organization are fulfilling the needs of a customer, whether it's your end customer, whether it's an internal customer, whether it's a business, so on and so forth. Now, to fulfill the needs of the customer, you need to bring together people, process, data, new ways of working, technology, so on and so forth. So if you have the right mindset, if you have the right training in terms of how to embark on this transformation, whether you're a large organization or a small organization will be less significant. I've seen specific departments or business units in large organizations kind of taking the lead in this transformation journey or spearheading the transformation, and other departments or business units who are probably a bit lagging behind will then follow suit. Versus you may have a smaller organization, you might think they are very nimble, right? But the leadership may not be enlightened enough in terms of what transformation means. So yeah, it really depends. But generally speaking, I think transformation is probably easier to achieve in a smaller organization and harder to achieve in a large, complex organization.
I think I love that answer because this is the answer where all factors got covered. One is you spoke about people and skills. You also spoke about legacy systems. Then you even spoke about leadership mindset. I think that's a brilliant one. So thank you very much, Rohit Dhawan, for joining me today. And for everybody, please keep visiting CDO Magazine Tech for CDO interview series. Thank you very much. I close it here.
Thanks, Ranjan.